All right, another Monday, another 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time, and another quick bites with HR bites. I think the journey so far has been so gratifying. A lot of people ask me, how do you do this every single Monday? And I want to tell you that God has been really kind. A lot of people reached out, we reached out to few, and all the way till December of 2025, we have guests lined up. We started off with friends. We moved on to people who were stalwarts in their own field. We got in stand-up comedians on Quick Bites with HR Bites. You asked us to get people from the world of human resources. You asked us for a masterclass. We got you all of that. If you haven't yet tuned into the other episodes, you must do that on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on Instagram. We would love to have your comments and your feedback. But without further ado, I want to introduce my guest tonight. My guest tonight is someone who just flew in from the United States, had to move to Switzerland, but landed up in London. Uh, I don't know whether Lady Gaga would do justice, but my guest tonight is in Mayfair in London. And I call her Lady Gaga, but for the world, she is Bettina. And I'm going to bring on screen Bettina. Bettina, thank you so much for accepting our invitation and being on Quick Bites with HR Bites.
Well, Sahil, there is no place I'd rather be for this next hour for sure. And thank you very much to you for having me. What an incredible success story with Quick Bites until Christmas. You are fully booked. This is quite something. What a pleasure to be on. And indeed, I am in between some traveling, but these days, as we know, this is all not an issue as we are connected. So tell me, Sahil,
Uh,
what can I share with you?
No, thank you so much, Bettina. I know you're jet lagged and I know you had a very long flight, but thank you.
No, absolutely. Listen, jet lag, not at all. I think one of the advantages I have is adaptation. And actually, it's all about energy, isn't it? I've come back from the US where I spend the last 2 weeks. The first week because I am part of the so-called Swiss American Foundation. And we have, in the past weeks, been very active in building bridges between the United States and Switzerland. Because Switzerland was one of the countries, of course, on that list that President Trump showed to the world on Liberation Day on April 2nd. And Switzerland was hit with a number of 31% of tariffs, which, as you can imagine, caused quite some sorrow in Switzerland. And so, via this American Swiss Foundation, there's been a few of us, or quite a lot of us, who have been approaching various stakeholders, including the very close circle around the current president. And so I'm proud. I might be able to give a little scoop here, but Switzerland will be one of the next countries to announce a deal with the United States, and the deal will look like less than those 31% tariff. One of the three elements that we put on the table with the negotiation team to get the tariffs to a level that would be agreeable is around apprenticeships. So it's
Hmm.
around Switzerland providing technical support and capacity building support on apprenticeships. And this, of course, brings us straight to workforce solutions, to HR, and to this world of work, and
Yeah.
to the importance of, for the United States in that case, right? Really continuing to receive insights from one of the best in class countries when it comes to work readiness solutions. Now, my assumption is there's a lot of your fans, Sahil, who are listening in from India, of course. And I know that India has also been looking at the apprenticeship model. And India has, just as the United States, also, for example, signed a memorandum of understanding between, in that case, India, just like the United States did with Switzerland as well. And to bring it back to me and to that moment 10 days ago, so I've been very involved for the past 15 years, very, very longer before, but indeed building that know-how and bringing innovative ways of workforce readiness solutions to countries outside of Switzerland. Let me just tell you what I did last week. So last week I was in Washington, and what brought me there is the biggest investment summit that was put up by the US government. And again, quite a few countries host such investment summit. As a matter of fact, just today, President Macron is hosting around 200 business leaders from around the world in Paris at the Castle of Versailles. So there are representatives of us, of the workforce solutions industry, the leaders, the CEOs of Manpower Group, of the Adecco Group, who are right now in those meetings with President Macron and with all his ministers. Now, back to last week. I'm making everybody jump here with me, right? So let's go back last week, Washington, D.C. This is the so-called Select USA Summit. 5,000 participants. And I can assure you there were participants from India. I did spot them. I have a sweet spot for India, and we'll get to that, I'm sure. Well, guess what the topic was, which was on everybody's mind. So every business that is looking to invest in the United States is posing one precondition for investment. It is not energy. It is not infrastructure, whether physical or digital. It is workforce. Every company investing in the United States is asking the states that are sitting there, what does the workforce look like in your state, in your city? And Sahil, guess what? What does every state and every city that was there, what is the first topic that they, advertise? And where they say they are the greatest across the United States. So from Texas to Michigan to Virginia to you name it, all of them mentioned one thing. And what was it? Workforce.
Workforce.
Each and every one of them said, we have the best workforce, the best educated, the best skilled, the best mobile, the best mindset for work and for investment, etc. So this is what I've just left behind me for the past 2 weeks. Obviously, a lot of other meetings, a lot of encounters. I also got a bit of a feel of what is happening in the United States right now. Very interesting. So no time for jet lag there, I would say, only for energy. Back to you, Sahil.
Beautiful, beautiful. So apart from work and the workforce, did you also enjoy the city? Did you do a little bit of tango with the workforce, or was it just conferences and just meetings?
I see. Actually, in New York, I treated myself, and I got the tickets quite some while ago. So I treated myself to a Broadway show, and it was the Broadway show with George Clooney. Because I admit, I am a George Clooney fan, of course, also because I believe in India, he's also well known via the Nespresso advertisement. And of course, Nespresso is an absolute iconic Swiss company. So I went to the show and saw George Clooney live. There he was. And it was an interesting experience. The piece, actually, Good Night and Good Luck, is about McCarthyism. So persecution in a way and denouncing of supposedly communist thinkers in the United States many years ago. So it was interesting to visit that piece in the current times, where also obviously it's not about communism, but it's about people who think differently, and how the government may ask some people to well, denounce might be a strong word, but just give indications about other people. So that's what I did. By the way, on Nespresso, I can't resist. So back in New York, I attended a wonderful evening with the CEO of Nestle, Laurent Fresh, who, by the way, is the founder and the initiator of a big youth employability program for Nestle across the world. He was the first one to initiate that in Latin America, where he was CEO prior to becoming global CEO of Nestle. And I've actually had the pleasure of working with him all these years. Again, in that context, Laurent Fresh he just stepped down. He was the chair of the so-called Global Apprenticeship Network, which is again a network around work readiness. I seem to come back to that topic. That network operates with national networks. And I'm very proud because India has a national network of this Global Apprenticeship Network. There's big players in the industry such as Teamlease, and of course, again, the Adecco Group, where I'm very involved in, that are members of that national network of the Global Apprenticeship Network. So let me finish that story. Sahil, it's dangerous. You give me the microphone and I'm on it, as you can see. So here is this evening with the CEO of Nestle. Brilliant, lots of personal insights. And all across the room were, representatives of Nestle. And you know who I met? I met the technician, technician is the wrong word, the brain behind Nespresso. And so he told me, and please, anybody from Nestle listening in, you will correct me, but this is what I retain. First of all, so Nestle was the first company that was able to powder milk, right? I mean, they have the global trade pattern on powdering milk, which we know millions of people, of children live on, including in India, powdered milk. And so they decided to apply the same technique to coffee. So they were the first company to be able to powder coffee. And then eventually, somewhere down the road, some smart, innovative person at Nestle said, well, let's do portions. Because the powdered coffee, of course, was Nescafé, which is the biggest coffee brand selling in the world. And so they said, let's do the portions. Well, believe it or not, I learned it took 11 years. 11 years. 11 years of failure, right, in producing that powdered coffee in the capsules, until eventually they knew, now we have a product that's going to work, they can go to market, and it's going to make money. I thought it was such an amazing story of resilience, obviously of putting the right people together, technical skills. But then he said what really made the success was the whole marketing campaign of Nespresso, because guess what? I mean, Nestle was not. They never produced coffee machines, but now all of a sudden they entered into partnerships with other companies, and here we go. Anyway, so those were my last 2 weeks.
Beautiful. And from the Broadway show, talking about the talent tango, you've seen this in different geographies. They are the employees, they are the employers. But who's really leading the dance? Are employees dancing to employers, or are employers dancing to employees? Who's leading the dance?
Sahil, straight to the juicy question. I see. Well, let's see. I probably have to give the typical wishy-washy differentiated answer. I'll
but
try
you're not known
to,
for wishy-washy.
Yeah.
You're not known for wishy-washy. You are
No,
known for
that's
hitting
true.
it
That's true.
straight.
No, I, why I'm going to say it depends is also because of geography. And
Yeah,
actually, look, at the baseline of everything is demand and supply, right?
absolutely.
And the way in most parts of the Western world, the current dynamics are set up right now is there's a huge scarcity around talent,
Hmm.
around, employees who actually want to be employed in a company because there are all these trends around uh, flexible work, which is fantastic. But a lot of companies are struggling to actually hire. With all of that, my answer to you is currently the power is in the hand of the employees. They
Hmm.
can really, and they have been asking for more, right? But, and this is where geography comes in those regions in the world where the demand, or rather the supply, is still rather big, I think not I think, but the picture looks different, right? And
Different.
look, India is one of those countries. So I wouldn't say in India all the power is with the employees. I wouldn't say so, except again in those areas where there is scarcity. Then it's, basic economics. And then employees can also ask for, better wages, for more perks in their workspace, for flexibility in terms of where they're working. Then it is possible. What we do see is that there is a generational shift, right? So we see that the desire for more freedom and, in a way, more agency over your own way of working, that is something that the current younger generations are definitely asking for. And that mindset gives them power to ask for it. So if you ask who's got the power, as you see, I also like to bring in that element of mindset, and I think culture and almost value of work.
True.
Probably if we generalize, the older generations are more used to, accepting and showing maybe gratitude to certain circumstances, whereas the younger generations are more the challengers and the ones who think, well, I don't necessarily have to accept what leadership is telling me, so I can make certain demands.
Absolutely. I think that's very pertinent. And you also spoke about culture. And we've seen this that historically it was about command and control.
Mm.
But today, leading organizations and the workforce is actually looking at co creating. So, do you really see that top down cultures where leadership says something everybody's got to follow is going to be a thing of the past and shared ownership is going to be the new culture? Or do you see a lot of organizations still following the top down culture?
Look, I mean, first of all, co-creation is the buzzword in general, right? Bringing different generations in at the same time, also diverse, so bringing in different voices. By now, we have enough research that says that the more insights you have from, completely different angles, the more successful you're going to be. Now, to your leadership question, that poses huge challenges for leadership, clearly. And, it is clear the moment you have people who are not all the same, you're going to have to adapt. And those who prefer to lead top down, they're going to be able to be successful with those they lead who believe in that as well, but not with the others, right? And so,
Yeah.
absolutely, you need to, an adaptation is happening. That is, normal, again, a sign of times. It's also a reality that is being used a lot these days in the context of AI and how Mark Benioff, the Salesforce CEO, of course, is the one who's known for having said that all of us, and I'm assuming really all of us on sharing this space right now, we're the last generation of leaders to lead only humans, right? Already us now, we need to lead humans and agents. So people, but then basically people who are augmented by AI, and then whatever Gen AI is being produced as we are speaking. And so that has an impact again on leadership. Can you there impose the top down? Actually, we don't know yet. We don't know yet. Maybe as a last element, it still also depends on the industry. If that type of leadership is top down, and as a matter of fact, we see certain industries where that approach is coming back. The classical financial services industry, the insurance industry, where that's coming back. So, in general, I think we're phasing out of it, but then it still depends on the industry, and it at the end of the day also depends on what the team is composed of at that moment in time.
Absolutely. I think, Bettina, you're so bang on. Maybe we're just the last generation to lead humans. And, while we say this, we may not have mastered the art of working with people. Many of us may not have led people as well. Now, what are some of the kind of skill sets, or what changes in the workforce do you see when leaders will have to not only lead humans, but also lead AI agents? What are the top 3, 4, 5 skills that you believe are very important that people need to start picking up today to be able to be leaders of tomorrow of a very different workforce?
It's a great question, and I'm actually quite relieved because I'm able to cite a report that was just published by the Adecco Group, where I head the government affairs. So the Adecco Group is one of the largest workforce solutions companies in the world, operating in 60 countries. And the group has just published its leading in the Agile AI World report, right? And one of the insights that we gain in that survey that we've done to over 2,000 leaders for the past months is that leaders are actually focusing on human skills, believe it or not. And that's what we see. I mean, these days I cannot actually hear it anymore when, we say in that digital world, we need the human, skills in the human world. But fact is, it is the case. And so what does it mean very concretely? And I've got the list in front of me. So first of all, agility and adaptability. I know that sounds, wishy-washy, I guess, but how key is it? We don't know these days in the environment we're in what is going to happen, how our day is going to impact it, how a product will be impacted, how consumer behavior will shift so much more rapidly, and you're going to have to adapt. How all of a sudden people in an organization may be affected. There's a lot of well-being issues as well, and all of that requires leaders to really be focused on that agility and adaptability piece. Then I've got an interesting one here as well, a skill, which is the ability to balance risk versus growth. So risk versus growth. I'm just going to let that sit for a while. I think all of us, and I see you nodding as well, we understand what it means. And I mean, today more than ever, obviously, we're focusing on growth. We have to. But the environment is such that it's so tough to know if those decisions that in the past days used to lead us to growth, if they're still the right ones, and what type of risk we should be taking. So it's that balance, risk versus growth. Another skill I have is innovation and creativity, and I think this is one which, to say it very undiplomatically, stresses people quite a bit, because again, it's a wide term. So for me, this is really about the notion of asking the right questions, of looking at things from a different angle. And this is for me where that having people on the team and around you who are different to you, who will allow you, again, to maybe just reshuffle everything, put it on the table, and bring in that innovation and creativity. That's where that piece is so key. What brought success up until today, the likelihood that it will not bring you success in future is very, very high. The likelihood that you're going to have to reinvent the way you do things, the way you lead people, the way you interact with people, because of technology as well, is very high, right? And so it's that human skill of innovation and creativity. There's two more I've got on the list here. One is data and analytics, very interesting. That is listed as a human skill. It's probably logic, right? So, this is probably one where you can probably train that as well, right? So when we tell people you have to go and upskill yourself, and you have to create a mindset that allows you to thrive in this world of AI, then probably a few exercises around logic, around data, around analytics will help, I would think. And maybe it's as simple as, for those of you who like to play a little, you don't say computer games anymore, do you? But, with apps or whatever, maybe this could actually be positive, because it will rewire your brain, right, in that way. And then the last skill I see here as a human skill is a commitment to sustainability. And
Sure.
Sahil, isn't that an interesting one, right? So we are, again, as a Deco group, and in our conversations with the leaders, we're convinced that these days, as a human skill, you need to have that connection to value creation, to obviously being completely aware about the impact that your actions have in terms of the environment. And I know that classically that's what we understand by sustainability. But actually, we at the Adecco Group and in the workforce solutions industry that I also represent, I'm also the president of the World Employment Confederation, which is the advocacy organization of the workforce solutions industry. Anyway, so we also say that sustainability touches the S, the social aspect. So whatever decision you make, again, driven towards growth, it should not be harming people, and it should not be harming society. At the contrary, yeah, it should be creating value. It should be good. It should be taking people out of poverty. It should be reducing inequality. It should be providing access to more people to the labor market, etc., etc.
Right.
So an interesting list, I think, there of human skills. I see I left you a bit speechless, Sahil.
Yes, I was just reflecting that if I had to look at these skills, I had two questions in my mind. One, is this report publicly available for people to access? That would be great.
Absolutely.
Put it on the chat here at the end of this podcast, so people listening in live or otherwise, we'll put it on LinkedIn so everyone gets it later on. So the report is available to everyone for them to read. But Bettina, thank you for taking us through these skills. And I think the thing that came to my mind was conversations in boardroom today are about sustainability, like you mentioned. They're about emerging technology. But many a times we call it business, but the way we conduct business is not the best of ways. I think empathy or EQ, right? Emotional quotient. If you got to lay off people, you got to lay off people because you call it business. But the impact that that has on not just the individual you're laying off, but their families can be significant. What are your thoughts, Bettina, on how does one bring in higher levels of empathy, emotional quotient, not just in the boardroom, but also with managers as they work with their teams?
Mhm. Wow. I'm very humbled by this question, Sahil, because huh, let's see. It's actually I don't know if it's a skill, but it's a human resource, and actually it's a human practice, right? That if you don't have the inclination to have the empathy and to have that EQ, and the fact that we're talking about it indicates that, right? Then it can be trained. It is something that um, is studied very extensively. There are a lot of very these days practical guidances, broken down into steps of what leaders can do in the moment that they have to face a situation where indeed they need to confront their workforce or their team with such decisions. So again, if you don't have it, within yourself, then I think, or I know there is this responsibility then to go out and to look for those tools because they are available. Now, in a best case scenario, and I again want to be mindful and respectful that not all organizations, are sophisticated, that they would have an HR department or an HR function. Because of course, this is one of the key, raison d'être and value adds of an HR department is to accompany leaders and managers in that process and to point out what the different steps should be. I unfortunately still see that overall, and this should not make anybody feel better, right? But it is still more of an exception to see practices that really from A to Z are empathic and respect that emotional quotient, and where there is an engagement with the people that are affected, right? That is unfortunately still less the norm than it should be. Again, shouldn't make those feel better that I'm very harsh now, but that don't think they are there. My message here is just start with having the awareness. Okay, maybe I think I am this amazing, emotionally, very mature leader who's going to be able to do that. But I think you would do better once you get into such a situation, again, to turn either to your HR colleagues, and if there aren't such, maybe just and maybe use AI here. I don't know. How do I empathically, interact with my team when there's a situation, up to all the way to letting people go. So it is a reality, and again, I would urge everybody to spend time on that, because more and more leaders will be judged on that capability of how they are interacting, with their people, and there will be tough decisions coming. There will be. You will have to. We all have to let people go around us, right? And so prepare yourself mentally for that. And again, just run through some checklists to be sure that that you've got that under control. And look, as you see, it really depends. Maybe you're leading a team which is very multicultural, and so you need to take that cultural element into consideration as well. Maybe you're leading teams with people who've been with the company for a long time, so you need to consider that. Maybe you're leading teams with very fresh and young and cohorts that haven't been around a long time. So that's why I find it, as usual, difficult to point in one direction. But what there is, again, in summary, there is enough out there these days that you can put together some guidance for yourself to go through that process.
Absolutely. I think a very, very comprehensive answer, Bettina, because you've touched upon various aspects that would play out in scenarios like these. But what actually comes to my mind is, we've heard this many times, that people don't leave organizations, they leave their managers, right? And in a world of AI, automation, and angst, you said that you could leverage AI to handle tricky situations or situations that you haven't done earlier or managed earlier. But how does one handle angst that is caused by someone in control? Is there a solution that you have, or we are, because you work with people across geographies? It's a lot to do with mindset. So in different geographies, how have you seen this playing out across the world in the ability for people to let the storm just settle and then life comes back to normal rather than just getting submerged in the volcano or in the hurricane?
Yeah. No easy questions with you. I see, Sahil. Look, again, it is eminently human that the likelihood that somewhere in your career you're going to encounter an environment that creates that angst is incredibly high, right? It's probably easy for me now because I have a few years of experience, and there are learnings. So I myself encountered a situation of toxic leadership where I endured all the effects of that, starting with, besides the psychological toll it had on me, how inefficient it was for my employer. What was important for me is to stand up, to actually voice it, even though I knew I was taking a risk, right? Because there is this situation of power, and so if you ask me, those are classical, and it's not a very innovative solution there. But I think I want to just appeal to everybody, and I often say we are in the year 2025. We should really start to point a finger on environments that are toxic and where the leaders do not recognize the value of workers, and we should be able to speak up. What also helped me to some extent is to look for allies. Sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's not possible. In my case, actually didn't help much. What I also looked out for is, to lodge a complaint with the HR department, which I hope in the best case, should also lead to a result. Again, in my case, and we're talking many years ago now, right? So, it actually also didn't help, I must say. And so, again, just to speak about me, I wasn't able to, build the resilience around the situation, which I think a lot of people do.
So what
and that again is human
helped you
nature.
was building resilience.
Yeah.
So what finally helped you was building resilience.
Yes. And then, you know what, Sahil, I believed in karma. And I believe that what goes around comes around, and that's then what happened, right? But it's not acceptable. It wasn't acceptable. So for years, this situation, it wasn't acceptable. And today, I would advise anybody to, look for allies, speak up, point it out, and then if you have to, you leave that organization, because if the organization allows for that culture, it reflects on the organization. Yeah.
Got it. Let's go back. I think so you spoke that we are going to be the last generation that could possibly only lead humans, right? I want to bring in the aspect of trust. And what are your reflections, right? One is about a human trusting a human. And the second is about a human that writes a code. And if the code malfunctions, or the AI agent malfunctions, or technology malfunctions, you no longer can trust the AI agent. What are some of your reflections on how will the equation of trust play out between humans and AI agents?
Let's see. It is early days, of course. And right now, I would never, ever, not one millisplit second trust any agent, any algorithm, anything. I would, and I do, anything that comes out of any chatbot, anything that comes out of, any program, whether it's DeepSeek or ChatGPT or Copilot, please question it. Please don't trust, clearly. Now, it is early days. And as a matter of fact, I'm actually the chair of the responsible AI committee of the Adecco Group. So I'm incredibly involved around the journey that the developers at the Adecco Group, in this case, are engaged in. Because again, the Adecco Group develops and actually purchases and then, of course, applies hundreds of AI-generated products. Now, of course, I could be, interpreted as shooting myself in the leg here with what I just said. But what I can assure you is that the Adecco Group, again, as a first step, actually put in place responsible AI principles before even there was basically finalization of the governance, right? And we're talking 2 years ago. So this was very, very early on. At the group, we said we need that responsible approach. Why? Because of the trust issue, because of the huge risk of discrimination, of bias, of actually hurting people, right? And we're now talking about AI in the workforce context, right? So this is a reality. And therefore, and now let's talk about this journey. At the Adecco Group, the responsible AI principles are the absolute baseline. And then what we do is we co-develop, co-create, co-educate our technical experts. We check, we double check. Is it perfect? Clearly not. I would never say it is perfect. But I think that like that, we can iterate together, constantly test, constantly. And I think this will allow us to build up that trust. So my advice here is work only with companies and purchase only those solutions that have, for instance, a so-called transparency note. That is the case, of course, for the big multinationals, the Microsofts, the Googles, etc. They have transparency notes, but there are more and more developers of AI tools that you will then take on your operations that have those transparency notes as well. And they will showcase in detailed way what the mitigation measures are as well, should anything occur. So the trust piece, again, needs to be earned, in my view. And it's going to be the one element that will distinguish operators, companies from each other. It's going to be the next frontier for business acceptance and also purchase acceptance, right? You want to have the proof of right now what measures that company has put in place, and then among those measures also the constant, perpetual, continuous testing.
Absolutely. I think a short while ago, you also spoke about a multi-generational workforce and how the future of work is going to be so different. Every generation says that, oh, my generation was different and this generation is different. I haven't seen any generation not saying that. But we have someone from our live audience who's listening to us live right now who has a question for you. And I'm going to bring the question up on your screen. So Subha Subramanian says, do you have any kind of specific, she just says specific, I'm assuming she's asking you advice or suggestions or perspectives for Gen Z employees.
Mm-hmm.
How is it that you deal with them, manage them, interact with them? Subha, I hope that's your question, but let's go for it. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Said, for bringing Subha in with that question. And you know what my advice is going to be here. And maybe here I'm very biased again. Also, actually, just by a report that I read this morning about the workforce in Germany, where very surprisingly in Germany, the current generation is the one that works the least amount of hours in the world. So this is Germany, which, you know, with my cliche, is an absolute superpower economic. We know they've been struggling, but also has, and now comes my answer, has a value and an approach to the value of work, which used to, and I think that is one of the explanations, see work as a positive element of a human's life. And so my advice to Gen Z is actually that. It's not to see work as a nuisance and not to see work as the uncomfortable part of your life, but have a mindset where you manage to get fulfillment. And besides, of course, the economic value that work has, you also see the importance that it has for you in terms of your growth and in terms of the impact that you can make. Now, I know it's easily said, and I know a lot of people, you know, they are in repetitive jobs and it's dull and it's, I don't know, you know, but for me, it's bigger than that. It's really about that overall approach, I guess, to work-life balance, I guess. Obviously, I'm an animal. I know I work a lot. And I'm one of those lucky ones, you know, who gets a lot of positive energy from work as well. I love my free time as well. I love it, right? And I'm creative and I play sports and I do all of it. But I must admit that the work side of things has a different energy to it, I believe. And if you think, by the way, that your hobby, you know, gives you much more, then why don't you make the hobby your job, by the way? I mean, it might sound simplistic here as well. So to come back, it's the value of work, and be sure that that you have a positive mindset towards that, because otherwise your whole working life will be very miserable, and
Yeah.
life is too long for that and too short for that as well.
So between the too long for that and the too short for that, you've left me slightly confused. And the reason you've left me confused is because certain leaders in some parts of the world say you need to work 90 hours a week. Certain leaders in certain parts of the world say we'll experiment with a 4-day work week.
Yeah.
And they're all linking it to number of hours. You also spoke about value creation, which may not necessarily be linked to the number of hours you put in. It could
Yeah.
also be linked to the quality of work that you do, right? Depending on what kind of role, right? If someone has to fly an aircraft, the person has to fly an aircraft, you have to put in that many hours, right? But you can also save fuel, you can have smoother landings. That's the qualitative or the entire flying experience. But leave that aside. I'm saying the whole debate of number of hours versus quality versus value creation. What's your stance? How does one, if one has to create, let's say, a policy, and you're on the board of so many organizations, if someone had to refer to you, Bettina, to say, we want to be a leading organization of the future, what should be some of our metrics? Should we give complete flexibility and people misuse it? Should we have rules and regulations and prescribe minimum 8 hours of work a day? How do you think the future will play out as far as timing of work, quality of work, and value creation or impact is concerned? Sorry,
Well,
long question,
long
but I
question.
would
And
love for you to answer.
again, what might help is if you can think of a concrete industry, for instance, right? I mean, um, it is so varied. Um, it is so varied. If you in manufacturing, in agriculture, in the services industry, in the hospitality industry. So let me just come back to my general comment, which is if you want to achieve growth and if you want to be productive, you have to put in work. You have to put in the hours. Now, of course, that's where there are workers' rights. And I am the first one to say, you need to have limits. You need to have within certain industry clear moments for breaks, etc. Clearly, I mean, absolutely clearly. I think what I was alluding to is more the fact that um, if you had a choice, you would prefer not working over working. So this is number one, right? So this is important for me, is make work an actual choice of how you want your life to be organized. And again, what the work hours then look like in the profession that you choose actually will depend on agreements that exist, on sectoral agreements that exist. As you can see, I'm thinking around the answer because interesting in the statistics around the countries where you work the most, we have Mexico. Mexico is the absolute number one country where it seems to be, I don't know, I think it's close to 60 hours. Maybe that's a bit exaggerated, but very, very high obligatory working hours. And actually, the current administration under President Sheinbaum is now tackling that, right? They are now going to regulate the numbers of hours to be worked in Mexico. So this is something that they're looking at. It's going to be regulated because, again, we don't want to exaggerate. We need to make sure that people are, healthy, and that the right balance is struck clearly. 4-day work, it works so far in those countries where the same amount of hours per week are allocated to 4 days, right? So it's again not a matter of working less hours, but just the way you're spreading this throughout the week. So to come back, you just need a certain amount of hours to be productive and to be able to grow. Otherwise, your company is going to go backwards, your organization is going to go backwards, the competitiveness of your country is going to go backwards, the innovation is not going to happen. And you know what? Those are choices. If you want to make that choice, fine. But then, from my venture point, you cannot expect growth and productivity than if you put in work.
Got it. Bettina, I must say, I love the way you took your time and you thought through the answer while you were speaking. Very
Oh,
graceful, very beautiful.
well, you're very kind.
I don't think I'm going to be so kind anymore because I am bringing up the last segment of this conversation, which is going to be a
Already? Oh,
surprise
yeah.
for you. So it's going to be a surprise because
Uh-huh.
I haven't told you about it. But it's going to be very simple, and I think it's going to be up your alley because you are amazing at what you do. So this segment is called the rapid fire round.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I'm going to
Let's go for
ask
it.
you
I'll put on my
questions.
glasses for that. No, maybe not.
Oh my God. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Put on your glasses. That's nice. You look intellectual. Okay.
Maybe.
So rapid fire, you got to make it fiery and you got to make it very quick. You can't think. The first thing that comes to your mind, you say it.
Let's do this.
Are you ready?
Born ready, Sahil. Born ready. Let's see.
Oh my God. Okay. The first question coming your way. Brace yourself. If Monday was a human being, what would you say to them?
Happy Monday.
Oh, go. Okay. Hybrid work or hybrid car? What is the real future?
Oh, the real future. Both.
Both? Okay. Coffee machine gossip or gossip on a Zoom call? Which one is more juicier?
The coffee machine one.
Okay. What is
Because you can
HR's
feel the whole
favorite workout?
emotion.
All emotions, absolutely.
Mhm.
What is HR's favorite workout?
HR's favorite workout.
Tick,
Yoga.
tick. Yoga. Why yoga?
Because at the end, you always just need to take a breather and then strike a pose. And you're going to hope that, it's going to be beneficial for everybody.
Super. If Gen Z were actually ruling the workplace, what's the first thing that they would ban?
Emails.
Lovely, lovely. Good answer. I like the answer. One thing that you wish you could auto reply in every meeting.
Auto reply in every meeting. It would be the question, so what?
So what? Okay, nice one. Reply all on email. Is it a crime or is it a cry for help?
Oh, shame. Well, I think it's none. It's none. It's something. It's inattention.
So people reply all unintentionally?
I give them the benefit of the doubt.
Okay, good answer. Okay. What's more dangerous, humans or AI?
Well, I don't like my answer, but it has to be humans.
Okay, interesting. If LinkedIn was a dating app, what would the tagline be?
LinkedIn is a dating app. I can tell. I'm getting plenty.
You're getting plenty? I love the honesty. I love the honesty.
And the tagline, but it's always, I love your picture. I'm like, I'm not here for my looks. I mean, that would be a completely wrong platform, right? So I don't get that one. I don't get that one.
Okay. One office dialogue that you'd love to throw into the black hole forever.
Oh, now I didn't get it. What? Sorry.
One office dialogue that you love to throw into the black hole forever.
Office dialogue. Mm, it's something around, did you hear the boss did, whatever, but then, it's really hearsay. So those type of dialogues, I don't need. It's this type of gossiping where that can go in the black hole for me.
Got it. You've been doing very well, Bettina. My last question to you. What's the best excuse you have ever given to get out of a meeting or a call that you never wanted to be on?
These days I try not to even get into the meeting. if it doesn't make sense. So what excuse, and I've learned to be ruthlessly honest as well, because lying always comes back to you at some stage. And so I mean, it's a true excuse, but I am quite often double booked or triple booked. And so sometimes I just have to say, guys, actually, I need to be somewhere else. So not very sympathetic, but there you go.
But the reality. There you go. Okay. I think you've done fantastically well. I would have wrapped up, but we have one question that's come up from the live audience. So do you have a minute or two to answer that question?
I actually do.
Okay, lovely. So I'm bringing it up on the screen. We have Manish who's asking you a question. Given how far we've come from basic search engines like Google to sophisticated AI-generated content, what are the key reasons we should still maintain a healthy skepticism towards AI output? Something that you mentioned earlier during the podcast. And I think Manish's question is very pertinent. So I thought I'll just bring it up on the screen for you to answer before we wrap up this evening's
I appreciate
podcast.
that, because it allows me to drill in on that point. I don't think we have come far. I really don't think so. I think we're still very early days, and one of the pieces is we actually don't have enough people from diverse backgrounds who are the actual developers and the actual testers. So we have very similar looking people who develop and test the various programs, and the bias is inherent, and the fact that we're going to miss things is obvious as well, in my view. And so I would maintain that skepticism, and just really always keep questioning the outputs that you receive, because the inputs are just not there yet.
Super. I think that's a very fair point. We all have seen biases play out in AI, and we're going to wait and watch. And bias, of course, is true. But what worries me even more is the ethics, because the more and more that we keep feeding the bias, generations after us are going to look at that technology as the gospel truth. And therefore, they will not know between right and wrong, because for them, this is the only right that they would see. So on that cautious note and on that happy note, Bettina, thank you so much. You've been fantastic. I know you have an event to go to in London later today. Wish you all the very best. And thank you so much for being here on Quick Bites with HR Bytes. Thank you.
I'm the one who is appreciative, and I wish you and everybody the greatest of success. And don't forget to be the most human that you can, and to enjoy and love what you do.
Thanks. Bye. Take care. See you soon when you're in India next.
Take care.
Bye.